Chapter 5. From a giant's body, the world was born. Hello and welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me again as we continue our journey through the branches of Yggdrasil. Settle in, find a comfortable space, and let your mind drift. In our last chapter, we witnessed the birth of the first giant, Ymir, born from the chaotic union of fire and ice in the great void of Ginnungagap. We saw how from him a race of giants emerged, and how from the frost-covered cow, Audumla, the first of the gods, Buri, was licked into existence. Buri's son, Bor, married the giantess Bestla, and together they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili and Vé. These 3 brothers, born into a world still young and unformed, were destined to shape the cosmos. The air in Ginnungagap was thick with a strange tension. The primordial chaos, once a silent expanse, now echoed with the heavy footsteps of giants and the quiet contemplation of the nascent gods. Ymir, the colossal progenitor, had grown immense, his power swelling with every passing age. He was the embodiment of the raw, untamed forces of nature, a being of immense strength but little foresight. His children, the frost giants, inherited his wild spirit, and their presence filled the void with a boisterous, often destructive energy. Odin and his brothers watched this unfolding drama with growing concern. They saw the untamed power of Ymir and the giants not as a force of creation, but as a perpetual state of chaos. There was no order, no structure, no beauty in this world, only the raw, churning energies of ice and fire. They knew with a certainty that resonated deep within their divine beings that for a true world to be born, the age of giants had to end. A great sacrifice was needed to bring forth a new beginning. So, with heavy hearts but resolute purpose, the 3 brothers, Odin, Vili and Vé, conspired. They knew what they must do. It was a terrible, necessary act. They approached Ymir as he lay in a deep, rumbling slumber, his breath like a winter gale sweeping across the frozen plains. He was their ancestor, in a way, the source from which all life, including their own divine line, had indirectly sprung. But he was also the obstacle to creation itself. Quietly, they drew their weapons. The silence of the void was shattered by a single, monumental clash. The battle was fierce, a cataclysmic struggle between the new gods and the ancient giant. The very fabric of Ginnungagap trembled. The clash of their powers sent shockwaves of fire and ice hurtling through the emptiness. But the combined might and cunning of Odin and his brothers proved too much for the lumbering giant. In the end, they prevailed. Ymir, the first being, fell. From his wounds, a torrent of blood, the salty frost water of his primordial form, gushed forth. It was not a stream or a river, but a deluge of cosmic proportions. The flood was so immense and so sudden that it swept through the void, drowning all but 2 of the frost giants. A single giant Bergelmir and his wife managed to escape the torrent by climbing into a wooden box, a makeshift ark that floated upon the great flood. They survived, carrying with them the future of the giant race, forever embittered against the gods who had slain their forefather. They found refuge in the misty, desolate lands on the edge of the world, a place that would come to be known as Jotunheim, the home of the giants. With the floodwaters receding, Odin, Vili and Vé stood before the immense, lifeless body of Ymir. The great emptiness of Ginnungagap was now filled with his colossal form. But this was not an end. It was the genesis of a new world, a world they would build with their own hands from the very substance of their vanquished foe. This was the great act of creation they had envisioned. With immense effort, the 3 brothers lifted the massive corpse and carried it to the very center of Ginnungagap. Here, the real work began. they laid his body down, and with divine artistry they began to shape the world. From Ymir's flesh they fashioned the earth. The soft, yielding parts became the fertile plains and gentle valleys, rich with soil and ready for life. The solid muscle and sinew they moulded into the rolling hills and sweeping landscapes. The world began to take on texture and form, a vast expanse of land where before there was only emptiness. This new realm they called Midgard, the middle enclosure, a place for life to flourish, protected from the chaos that still lingered at the edges of existence. From Ymir's lifeblood, which had pooled in the great depressions of the land, they formed the oceans, the lakes, and the rivers. The vast, dark waters encircled the land, a mighty sea that ebbed and flowed with a rhythm of its own. The blood that had once drowned the giants now became the life-giving water that would sustain the world to come, its salty tang a faint memory of its primordial, frosty origins. His unbroken bones, strong and immense, they piled high to create the mountains and the rugged cliffs. The towering peaks reached towards a sky that did not yet exist, their stony ridges and crags forming the backbone of the new world. His smaller bones and teeth they scattered across the land, and these became the rocks and stones that dotted the plains and lined the riverbeds. The world now had land and water, mountains and valleys. But it was a world shrouded in darkness, for there was no sky above. Odin looked upon the giant's massive, hollowed skull. An idea sparked in his mind. With the help of his brothers, he lifted the immense skull and raised it high above the earth. They propped it up, creating a vast, overarching dome, the firmament, the sky itself. To hold this celestial dome in place, they appointed 4 dwarves, one for each cardinal point. Nordri was placed in the north, Sudri in the south, Ostri in the east, and Westri in the west. These 4 beings, born from the earth like maggots from Ymir's flesh, now had the eternal task of supporting the heavens, their names forever bound to the directions they guarded, but the sky was still dark and empty. So the brothers journeyed back to Muspelheim, the land of fire, from where the first sparks of life had flown. They gathered the glowing embers and fiery sparks that shot from the sword of the giant Surt. They took these celestial fires and scattered them across the inner surface of Ymir's skull. The larger sparks became the sun and the moon, set on paths to chase each other across the sky, bringing the cycle of day and night to the new world. The countless smaller sparks became the stars, twinkling like diamonds against the dark vault of the heavens. To complete their creation, they took Ymir's great brain and tossed it into the air beneath the sky dome. It scattered and billowed, forming the clouds, sometimes white and fluffy, drifting lazily on a summer's day. Other times, dark and heavy, pregnant with rain or rumbling with thunder, a faint echo of the giant's stormy temperament. And finally, from Ymir's eyebrows, thick and bristly, they fashioned a great defensive wall. They used them to encircle Midgard, the realm of mankind, creating a mighty fortification to protect it from the vengeful giants who lurked in Jotunheim, beyond the ocean. Thus, from the body of a slain giant, the world was born. The raw chaos of Ginnungagap had been transformed into a structured, ordered cosmos. Midgard lay at its center, a place of potential and promise. Below lay the dark, misty realms of Niflheim, and above the fiery expanse of Muspelheim. And connecting them all, holding the new creation together, the great world tree, Yggdrasil, continued to grow, its roots digging deep into the past and its branches reaching towards the future. The world was built, but it was still empty. It was a beautiful, silent stage waiting for its players. The gods had created a home, but now they needed to create its inhabitants. And in our next chapter, we will see how the first humans were created from two pieces of driftwood found on a shore, and how the gods breathed life, wit, and spirit into them. But even as new life begins, ancient forces stir in the darkness. Deep in the roots of Yggdrasil, a shadow gnaws, a creature of immense hunger and malice. Join me next time as we descend into the depths to meet Nidhogg, the devourer of roots, and learn of the eternal strife that threatens the very foundation of the world tree. Thank you for listening and sharing this quiet time with me. I hope this story has brought you a moment of peace and wonder. If you've enjoyed our journey tonight, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to join us for our next chapter. Until then, may your dreams be peaceful and your rest be deep. Sleep well.